Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Denver, Colorado, it's time for Franchise Bible Coach Radio. Now, here are your hosts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Franchise Bible Coach Radio Podcast with Rick and Rob. I'm Rick Grossman, and I'll be your co-host today, along with my co-host, Rob Ganley. And we have a very special guest today, Dr. Dani McVety from Lap of Love Veterinary Hospice. And we're going to learn about their incredible business model and learn some gold nuggets to help you run your business more efficiently out there. And so remember, folks, we're kind of at the tail end of what we call the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge. It's been a 3-month challenge that we put together back when the COVID-19 first started. And we decided we wanted to do something to give back to the industry that we love, a way to help our franchise friends out there, franchisors and franchise owners, get through this time, not only survive, but to thrive as business owners. And we've had incredible stories of innovation and participation and people helping each other, and really just excited to report that momentum is taking place. All things are pointing towards a strong recovery. We have more people inquiring about franchise ownership today than I think I've ever seen in my career. And so we see that there's good potential for growth out there. So we'll get to more details on that as we get going here, but I'm going to turn the microphone over to my co-host so he can thank our sponsors and kick things off with Dr. McVety. Hey, Rob.
How are you, Rick? It's good to be here. Thank you very much. I want to dive right in and get started with Dr. Dani, but I do want to mention our sponsor. We do thank them. And so I want to thank SEO Samba. They are the makers and founders of the franchise marketing operating system. It's built for franchisors and franchisees. And you can find out more about SEO Samba at seosamba.com. So with that said, Dr. Dani, welcome to the show.
Thank you both so much. So happy to be here with you guys.
Great. It's great to have you. And I got to tell you, I live in Colorado Springs, and I moved here about 13 years ago. And one of the stats that I always stuck with me is that they had more dogs per capita than anywhere else in the country. Yeah. So they love their dogs. You can't really drive anywhere without a dog hanging out the window. Right. And they love animals. I should say animals, but certainly I'm a dog lover. So I cued in on that. But anyway, it's great to have you on the show. Obviously, the listeners would love to know a little bit more about how you got started with the brand and who you serve in your local communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a veterinarian, obviously, and I volunteered for human hospice when I was in college, which kind of, long story short, led me into end-of-life care for pets. When I first started Lap of Love, it was just me in Tampa, Florida, and I had graduated in a down economy in 2009. So this was a way to add, just earn some extra income. But I think as most franchisors, see is that I was kind of good at it, and I really enjoyed it. And not only that, but I enjoyed helping other people be successful at it also. So to make a long story short, I partnered with a classmate of mine who was in software before veterinary school. So she helped design our own practice management software, which allowed us to replicate the business model again and again. Every franchisor needs that platform that you can communicate with your team, that you can, the point of sale, all that stuff. So by putting that together, we were able to replicate the model. And then our franchise attorney, who's obviously been huge in this entire growth process, he helped us get through the corporate practice of medicine hoops, which are obviously very, very important for medical franchises. So we were just really honored from the beginning to have an amazing team that we put together, and everybody's still with us, 11 years later. So, you asked who we serve, and really who we serve are people that love their pets. That's who we serve. We provide in-home end-of-life care. So 95% of that is in-home euthanasia. There's only about 5% that's the actual hospice care, in-person hospice care. The rest of it is over the phone, helping families make the decision to say goodbye, that kind of thing. So, we serve the people that love their pets as family. I mean, that's really the bottom line. And then we've also been lucky enough to work with, now we're over 130, close to 140 doctors that also just get our mission. We don't have to convince them. They get it. It's who they are too. And so it's a very symbiotic, relationship that means that everybody's kind of in this win-win, relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I have to jump in again because I went through, I guess it was 2012 and 13, and had 2 labs, and they were just good dogs, but lived their life, and they just got old, and they both had complications in the end. But in that process, not having something like what you just described, it would have been nice. And I didn't know of something like that. So it sounds like an awesome model, but I can see the need right there because it was a hard process to work through, not knowing what to do.
Yeah, no.
And whatever happened first, I did,
yeah. And Rob, I mean, you're right. And what you just said is that it would have been nice to have that. And we hear that so many times. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, oh, I wish I would have known. I wish my mom would have known, And now, I mean, just to kind of jump on, I think, one of your questions coming up is how has COVID affected this? Before COVID, this was just something that people seeked out because they heard someone else did it in the home, or they thought of it themselves. Oh, maybe we could have someone come to their home. But now it's almost essential, right? To have someone come to their home and to not go out. Not only that, but unfortunately, a lot of veterinary clinics are not allowing clients to go into the practice with their pet for obvious reasons, for the safety of everybody. So what that means is that means kind of curbside, where you pull up into the parking lot and then you call, they take your pet in and then they take your pet out. So a lot of practices aren't even allowing people to be with their pet during euthanasia, which is obviously heartbreaking.
That's true.
So that has definitely, we were flat for a little bit, but now we've really snowballed and we've been growing about 15 to 25% month over month, just over the past couple months. So it's been big. Yeah.
And Dr. Dani, how many locations do you have again?
Oh gosh. So we have almost 140 doctors across the country in about 65 locations and a little over 30 states. And not all of them are franchises. We went the franchise route at the beginning, but in the past couple of years, we've started mostly going corporate owned, just for a lot of different reasons. But we still have quite a number of franchisees out there that are living through their agreements, and they're amazing. We have such an awesome group of people.
Nice. And are you still seeking new franchises?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. We haven't been doing that. And ours is a little bit different. Our franchisees have always been doctors. Right. We had 2 separate franchise agreements. One of them where doctors actually bought in to have an exclusive area, and the other one, there was no franchise buy-in. There was just an ongoing franchise fee based on the number of families that they helped. Okay. So that has been phased out, and we only have our exclusive locations still in order. Okay,
very good. Well, I know my wife teases me that I have an issue with my dog because she's on my lap all the time. She's a 10-pound Yorkie, and she says if the house caught on fire, that she'd find me out on the sidewalk with the dog as she was getting the kids out of the house.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that.
I know. What's wrong with her? Seems like I've got my priorities in perfect order. Sure. And she says, well, what about the kids? I said, well, they've got legs. And she goes, well, the dog has legs too. And I said, well, but she doesn't know to get out. The kids do.
That's right. Get out. Right.
We tease, but we have, these members of our family, and unfortunately they don't live as long as we do. And so it's something that we have to face, and it's inevitable. And it's very, very hard for a family.
Yeah. It's their only flaws. They don't live as long as we do.
I know. I was just saying that the other day. It's not fair.
Yeah, no, it's not. And that's why it's been, it's very interesting. At the very, very beginning, I had some people very close to me that would say, like, you can't make a full-time job out of this. There's not going to be enough people, that are going to need your help, or, better yet, there's other doctors or other team members aren't going to want to do this full-time. So it was a very big discussion that we had at the very beginning is this scalable? Is this something where because clients get it. Like, we don't have to convince clients of it. It's right. A matter of, do they want to do it over and over and over again in the home? Because there are some people that don't necessarily want to be in the home. But also, are there enough doctors and now support center? We have an amazing group of people that answer the phones too. Are there enough of them that want to do this full time and emotionally can do it full time? Mm-hmm. And what we found is that we don't have to worry about what we call compassion fatigue in our group, It's actually the opposite. Our group could probably write the book on how not to feel compassion fatigue. And if you look at human doctors and human geriatric nurses and, nursing home workers, they would tell you also that it's incredibly fulfilling, that there's a thank you that you get back from families and from your patients that is just not, you can't compare it to anything. Mm-hmm. So it really has been awesome to see that it wasn't just me that kind of got it at the beginning. There are other people that feel moved by this work as well.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, and you already mentioned a little bit about COVID. And of course, that's kind of been our theme over the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge over the last several months. And now we're kind of moving toward momentum and getting out of this time and seeing how things are changing and innovations and ways to move forward. Tell me a little bit more about how COVID has affected your locations and maybe some of the innovations and things that you've done as a brand to kind of work through those things. You mentioned a little bit about that, but is there anything that comes to mind that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, we're very blessed for two reasons. We're blessed, number one, that we're in the veterinary profession, because rarely do people stop caring for their pets. They may stop maybe buying, I don't know, cars or something like that, but people don't typically stop caring for their pets. And we knew that throughout the last recession as well, 2008, 2009. So we're very blessed for that reason. And we're blessed, secondly, because we also do in-home care. So we don't have facilities that we have to shut down and that, you're reducing foot traffic that goes in them. The phone has kept ringing throughout this entire, past 4 months. So when COVID really hit, when everything shut down, the only things that we had to work through with our doctors was how do we keep everybody feeling safe walking into the homes? So what we did is we stopped doing in-home hospice appointments, because hospice appointments can take 1.5 hours to 2 hours. They're very, very long and they're in depth with conversations with families. So we stopped doing that in the home and we moved them to the telemedical platform so that the doctors can talk with the families over the phone, over Skype, to try to look, and see the pet so that we can give some guidance on what to do towards the end of life. Now the euthanasias, again, the request for those, we did not dip at all. We stayed flat a little bit through March and then picked up again through end of May and then June. But those, what we did do is try to move a lot of the interaction to the phone. So as the doctors, we would call the families and say, Dr. Dani, I'm on my way. I'm about 20 minutes away. But in order to reduce the time that we have face-to-face, let's just talk about what's going on now so we can, and I'm going to explain the process just so that we can obviously reduce that person-to-person contact. So we would talk about what's going on with their pet. A lot of people obviously want to feel that we're making the right decision together. So we would talk about the decision that we were going to make, and then also talk about the procedure of euthanasia. So I would explain everything before we even got to the home. And that, again, allowed for a nice and efficient manner. But, for a while there, and we're doctors, we probably know too much for this whole thing. For a while there, we had a lot of doctors that were changing clothes top to bottom, between appointments and wiping their entire cars down. And, now we know a little bit more about the aerosol transmission, so we can taper that back a little bit. But, we do go to extreme measures to make sure that the next family that we see is safe. And we have doctors in New York, we have doctors in Seattle, we've had doctors in Miami, where there's big, huge breakouts. So we really had to kind of raise our minimum standard to meet the requirements for each of those hot zones as well. Of course, everybody's dealing with people that are primary caretakers of children as well. So that's been something that, we've worked through, is helping our team members that didn't have another outlet to be able to be home for their kids too. But that's been the biggest struggle, is just keeping everybody on the road and keeping everybody inspired to help, because it's also very difficult for our team when there's 10 people that need help and we can only help 5 in a day. That's very, very stressful for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and that's been a theme we've seen time and time again, Rob, haven't we, with just about every franchise business out there, which is the customers need to feel safe and they need to trust you. And that whether you're selling them a hamburger or going into their home. So anything that can be communicated for the listeners, anything you can do as a business provider to make your customers feel safe and increase their trust for your business will definitely bode well for your business brand, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, being doctors, it helps.
Yeah.
Naturally, there's a trust in the public. Probably shouldn't be too trusting.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Throw the white jacket on, and you know everything, right?
Right. No. Yep. We don't, and we know too much. So.
Yeah, right. You might. Yeah, exactly. But no, it's very important for the customer, the consumer, the patient to all feel more, that that you're on top of it. You have an answer for it. You're addressing it. You're not just doing business as usual, and
right.
not.
Yeah, and it's really been hard because to that point, the trustworthiness, the relationship that we build with our clients. I mean, there are people that, I've helped 11 years ago. I just talked to a family 2 days ago that I helped 10 years ago. And this was only twice that I went into their home and they remembered me and I remembered them. So the relationship that we build in such a small amount of time is so big and meaningful. And to that point, it's been very, very hard for our doctors, mostly for our doctors, to not be able to shake somebody's hand and give them a hug and lay your hand on them and just say, because sometimes a gentle touch conveys more compassion and empathy than any words. You can't just sit there because, I've been in these appointments where another family member's like, it's okay, it's fine, he's out of pain, it's okay, come on, get up now. And I have, in many appointments, I've just said, don't say anything. Put your hand on their back and just be with them. But it's so hard to, I was going to say it's so hard to be with somebody like that without being able to touch them. But we all figure it out and we've just had to make do. But the hug is usually the gift that we get. That's the payment that we get is like the hug and then the thank you. And it's been so hard for our team. And I had a doctor in New York actually tell me, she goes, Dani, I'm on their little patio euthanizing their dog and they're behind the screen door crying. Just that is it's taxing for obviously the family, it's gut wrenching, but it's taxing for our team too, because they now are an instrument of that pain for that family. And it's difficult when you don't get the payment back of the hug and the thank you and you've been me, and we get the words, of course, it's like that'll never go away, but it's been very difficult for our team to not be able to physically touch someone or be close enough to them to convey some really heartfelt empathy. Gotcha. So it's been interesting.
Wow, that is a lot to take in. Yeah,
it is. It's heavy. I know. Yeah,
it is. I mean, like I said, I had 2 dogs, and within a year and a half, they both were gone, and it was a hard process. So I know exactly what you mean. And as I said, not that the experience with the places I did that with were okay, but there wasn't what you described. Yeah. And so that would have been nice. And now you're having to adapt that, and at least temporarily, while we follow some of these rules around social distancing.
Right.
So, well, hey, that's great. But tell us a little more about like your plans for the future. So right now you're not offering franchises, but you are still looking to expand. Obviously, what you do could be everywhere, right? We would love to see it be offered in every market so that every person like myself would be able to get that. So obviously there's no shortage of demand, I think. But how do you plan on getting this in other markets or with other doctors? How do you see that going with this pandemic?
We do. We want this available to everybody. We have proven over the years that when you say goodbye in home like this, you don't typically want to do it anywhere else. And that just, that continues to snowball the desire that families have for this type of service. So we want to be everywhere. It breaks our heart when there's somebody that calls from a small town in Iowa, and they don't have a doctor there. And I think and listen, my husband's from Iowa, so I could say that. So a small town in Iowa. But my main goal is to have everybody have in-home end-of-life care available to them where they're at. And I would love to tell everybody out there that it is frustrating for us when we don't have the ability to have a doctor in your area. But there is a national shortage of veterinarians. We're actually not graduating enough veterinarians from vet school to keep up with the demand. So, there are large corporations out there right now that would hire 2,000 veterinarians tomorrow if they could find them. There just aren't 2,000 available. So we would love to hire, I mean, I can name large cities, you know, New York and Tampa and Miami and Michigan. I mean, you know, Southeast Michigan, there's a ton of places, large metro areas that we don't have enough help. So that's a big vision of ours, is to continue to find and bring on those amazing doctors that want to do this work, knowing that we're in a tough market anyway. I mean, there's only 31 veterinary schools in the United States, and there's hundreds of medical schools. So that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit more competitive, and because there's just not enough doctors out there. So it's very, very difficult for our whole team when we can't get to someone. And even Tampa, you know, I live here in Tampa, which is where our headquarters are. And sometimes someone's calls just outside of Tampa, and we might be able to help, or we may not be able to help. And that's very tough for us. It's a good problem to have, though, I suppose, from a business standpoint. So.
From a business standpoint, yeah.
Yeah, it's from business.
Wow. So do you have any favorite real world stories, like a customer story that's happened recently with this change? And
oh, gosh.
I'm sure there's tons of them, but
I have so many stories. I'm actually working on a book right now of stories too.
Oh, good.
You know, I mean, I only help maybe a handful of families a month now. Our very busy doctors will help anywhere from 80 to 100 families per month. So, you know, I help family, friends, and employees, that kind of thing. So I haven't seen a lot myself since you know, this has all gone down, but I can tell you, oh shoot, I'm trying to think of a good story to tell you guys. I helped a couple skunks one time. They were pet skunks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A pet deer.
Oh.
Yep. Someone went to a flea market. You know, it's always a flea market story. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I was at a flea market and I got this pig, or I got this deer or skunk or whatever. And now, you know, 15 years later, they're huge. And yeah, so some pretty interesting experiences for sure. A couple canine cops. Obviously, that's like, oh my gosh, the water.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, like the tears happen in that.
Oh,
those are big. And then, you know, they'll have a sidewalk lined with cops, and they'll do flag, and they put the, you know, put the retired officer, you know, in the car, and yeah, it's really
wow.
cool.
I've seen some of that on television with like veterans and police officers and things, and that's really emotional. Yeah,
really neat. We get to be a part of a very, very cool experience in life.
Yeah,
you know, if not a lot of people get to kind of witness that. And, you know, each of us on a personal level are only going to go through it a handful of times in our lifetime. But as doctors, we know we're doing it now, you know, thousands of times when you do just this work.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome. It's very neat to be part of it. I've been part of like Mason ceremonies and Wiccan ceremonies, and everyone's got their thing. So
everyone's got their thing.
Everyone's got it. Yep.
But everyone loves their dogs and their cats.
Yes.
And their deer and their skunks.
And their deer and their pot-bellied pigs. And yeah.
Wow. That's very cool.
Not bad. Well, one of the last things we like to wrap shows up with, and you know, this might be, it might be a combination of things, but is there anything you want to leave with the audience, like a gold nugget or some tips for, now this could be a couple of things. It could be for the audience that you serve, or it could be for business owners or people that are in your business, you know, dealing with this pandemic, maybe doing similar work. Anything you want to share about your experience going through it? Any tip or to leave with the audience?
You know, one thing that we started doing recently is what's called a glow and grieve. And those words work in our business. They may not work in every business, but we have now on a regular basis, and it just kind of depends on, you know, if it's quarterly or monthly, we will send out this newsletter type of thing that talks about the glowing, so the amazing things that our team members have done in the stories and just really awesome things. And then the grieving things, maybe things we could have done better. And now we call it grieving in our business because maybe 1 out of 10,000 families will have a negative experience. And we all know that happens no matter what. But with our team, it's typically something that has happened medically that we have no control over. And then they will tend to, of course, blame it on the doctor and blame it on something that we did. So I remind our team all the time. And when we do have complaints, I handle it personally. I talk with them personally. And then I remind our team members too, that a lot of the anger that comes out is from the grief that people are feeling. So again, those words don't work in every single business, but they work in our business. And it also helps remind us about the amazing things that we're doing, because we're always going out above and beyond, trying to help somebody and do an incredible job. But then also on the other side, even hearing about a negative comment that someone else received can sometimes have you be a little bit more diligent and meticulous about the service that you provide to the next person. So I think that that's something that we've started recently, and I've always struggled with how to do that. I want to share the negative things with the entire team, but I don't want to call somebody out, and I don't want them to feel like it's that they're taking it personally that this story has been said. So we're kind of making it a little bit more of an opportunity for everybody to grow. So that's something that I think has gone off very well.
Very wise. Very wise. Well, that sounds like a needed service, and we can't wait to see you from coast to coast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
We love our pets, and my Yorkie is 8 years old, and so, I'm already starting to freak out about her.
She'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, they live a while. Those little ones.
They live to they're like 20. You got
20. I'm going to tell my wife. The doctor said 20.
There you go. Yeah.
That's good. Good to hear. Oh, now I can sleep better. But yeah, folks, if you want to learn more about the wonderful things that Dr. Dani's been talking about with Lap of Love, go ahead and check out their website, and it's lapoflove.com, correct?
Yes, it is. That's right.
Yep. And we'll put you on our wall of fame too, on the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge page of franchisebiblecoach.com. And you can click on that link and get through to their website as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sound good? Rob, do you have any final thoughts before we close the show?
No, I tell you, it was a pleasure. And like I said, I meant what I said. It is a heartfelt thing, and I can't think of a service that would be more impactful. I get it. Like, I wouldn't forget you either. I won't forget the interview. We could talk in 10 years.
Likewise.
I'll be definitely looking. I don't have my new dog yet. I've taken a few years off, but there's no doubt in my mind that I will have a best friend again like that. So
I love that. Well, we have a wonderful team out in Denver. So.
Good. Well, that's good. Well, then maybe, I don't know. I don't know if they come down here. We're not that far.
You might. For you.
Down on the
screen. I know Dr. Dani. I interviewed her. You got to come down here.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, it was a pleasure. And just want to thank the audience and thank our sponsor again, SEO Samba, for helping us put this on, and our partner Entrepreneur Magazine for supporting us, and Franchise Bible. So again, thanks to everybody. And that's about it, Rick.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Dani. And we look forward to following up with you at some time and seeing how you're doing. All that compassion for those pets and pet lovers out there is very important. Folks, remember that we're here at franchisebiblecoach.com if you need us for anything. And even though we're wrapping up the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge, we're here for you. So check out our website, franchisebiblecoach.com. We now have some very affordable memberships so that you can access our Franchise Bible Coach resources and coaching sessions at a very small monthly fee. And I announced this yesterday, and we have a special going right now to kind of keep the momentum going, where you can enter in the coupon code Momentum 2020 and you'll get 90 days of a free membership. So pretty irresistible there. So join us, and we'll see you on the inside. We have a lot of exciting things coming up for the next quarter here. So join us, and we'll help you build your zenith level franchise company. And thanks again to our audience, and thanks to Dr. McVety. We appreciate you all participating in the Franchise Bible Coach Radio podcast with Rick and Rob, and we'll see you next time. I'm Rick Grossman signing off. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.